Good
evening, everyone, and welcome to the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners Committee of the Whole meeting, April 13th, 2016. Could I have roll call, please?
Yes, we have 10 present, 1 presiding, and 1 absent.
Thank you, Colleen. Would everyone please join us with Dennis for the prayer and the pledge? Commissioner Henderson, I should say.
Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which so greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. I will forgo the report of the chair. There's just one thing I did want to mention is yesterday there was a kickoff meeting for our Beautified Butte annual cleanup that we do every year. And it's in conjunction with the Chamber and several other groups that have been doing this for years and years. And we end up with a final rally at the landfill in May. So we'll be keeping you up to date on what's going on there. If any commissioners are interested in getting involved, just get a hold of the Chamber and they will probably put you to work. So just want to mention that did start yesterday. So we will begin with section 1, bid opening, communication number 16-157. JP Gallagher, Director of Butte-Silver Parks and Recreation Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize time on April 13th, 2016's agenda to conduct a bid opening regarding the Butte-Silver invitation for bid for the Miners Field Masonry Project at Copper Mountain Sports Park. JP, the floor is yours.
Chairperson Shaw and Commissioners, we have not received any bids that came in on this bid package, so we will not have a bid opening this morning or this evening.
Okay.
Any questions?
We received no bids.
And just for the record, Madam Chair, there was a publication
Thank you.
that was.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to ask you that next.
Okay.
All right, so the publication was correct and proper. And Commissioner Henderson, did you have a question?
Madam Chair, JP, I didn't quite get that. There was no bids from cement guys or nothing?
No bids. We did have interest. We had people at the walkthrough. One of the things that we heard back was that one of the contractors did not have the bonding authority to be able to bid this size of a package. We also received communication from another contractor that missed the walkthrough on that, but it was a requirement to be there for the walkthrough to be able to bid on this. So we're going to look at how we can restructure this a little bit to gain either some bids or to break it up into pieces so that some of these contractors can bid it and have the bonding authority as well to do that.
Okay. Any other questions for JP? Thank you, JP. We look forward to hearing from you.
Okay.
See how this thing progresses. Okay.
All right.
Thanks. Okay, section 2 is a presentation, communication 16-129. Oh, there you are. I see Vanna is taking the shade down. Karen Burns, Director of Butte-Silver Community Development Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize a presentation on the Butte Economic Gardening Project at the April 13th meeting. And Karen's going to run back and explain why we're going to postpone this today.
Thank you, Chairman Shaw. I am Karen Burns, Director of Community Development. I have not received all of the information back that I was gathering from the companies that have completed our economic gardening project, and I would like to give them an opportunity to give us their feedback before I make this presentation to you. So I would like to delay it if possible for 2 weeks. I have started to receive the feedback in this morning. I had some completed surveys returned to me, but I'd like to give everyone an opportunity to get their input back to us before I make that presentation. So with your concurrence, I'd love to postpone that for 2 weeks.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Karen. Section 3, presentation, communication 16-130. Karen Burns, Director, Butte-Silver Community Development Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize a presentation on the Uptown Butte parking garage at the April 13th meeting. And this is happening, so.
This is happening.
All right.
Bear with me for just 1 second. I brought my own technology with me today, so that I could be sure that everything would actually play on our system here. So it might cut it off a little bit. It looks like I'm just trying to zoom in here. We'll get the gist of it. And I apologize, I don't have a remote, so I'll just stand and talk if that's okay with all of you and clip through my own presentation. Sorry about that, 1 second.
Sitting as the judiciary, yeah.
So tonight, I just wanted to give an update to the Council of Commissioners regarding this Uptown Parking Garage project and where we are in the process and getting the project off the ground. It's been a very busy time with lots of meetings and lots of different pieces of the project that we have to get confirmed and rolling. So I wanted to take a chance just to give you that update. And also to let you know that this is a project that is talked about monthly at the URA board meetings, as it is a URA-driven project. And we meet every month on now the 4th Tuesday of the month at 8:30 in the morning here at the courthouse. So if you are interested in the discussion that's happening at those meetings and how things are moving ahead, those minutes are available, and obviously I'm always available by the phone call if you have a question about how things are progressing and where we are with the project. So I just wanted to give you that update quickly. So we're looking at a schedule for the parking garage, and this is just very high-level schedule of how things are coming together. We are meeting with our construction and design team. As you recall, our construction company was selected as Sletton Construction, and they're working hand in hand with our design team right now. We're at about a 50% design with guaranteed maximum pricing involved in that. We are meeting tomorrow here in the courthouse in our offices to go through the plan set, sheet by sheet, item by item, as we're working through this to final design. And I know that a lot of you may be curious about, well, when in that process is it opened up for any local contractors that want to bid pieces of this work, and how that part of that is going to flow. As we work through these final designs and these numbers and getting our estimates together, the procurement on the actual construction items of the garage will happen in May. So there will be public notices of those procurement items. There will be times for all the locals who want to be involved, and hopefully it will go better than they'll be able to have the bonding capacity to be able to get in on this construction project. That will go out in May. So that's what we're working towards. Before this body, there will be a design build contract addendum. We signed a construction contract, a design contract, and through the construction manager at risk process, we signed that part of the agreement, and that was approved by this body. There'll be an addendum to that contract after we receive our guaranteed price at 100%, and that hopefully will come through this body again in May. So that will also be happening. I know this is the first time for this process for all of us, but this is how it works and how it will flow. And we are also, another ball that's in the air is the financing, finalizing the financing of how this garage will be paid for. And from all of our previous discussions and presentations, we have always said we would bond with tax increment financed bonds for this project. That is still the plan. And as you are aware, tax increment bonds are bonds that are based on incremental taxes that are collected within an urban renewal district. And those incremental taxes are not an additional tax. It isn't an additional burden to the taxpayers. What it is capturing the already accruing increment of the rise of property values within the district to pay for projects within the district that have been identified in our urban renewal plan and adopted by ordinance. So what we are doing is following that plan and plan to finance this garage with those tax increment bonds. We have engaged both bond counsel with Dorsey Whitney and Erin McCready, an expert in her field in this area. And we have also engaged with DA Davidson and Aaron Rudio, who I believe we're all familiar with the work that they do on these sorts of municipal financing projects. So we are in those talks right now. We're hoping and working towards construction start date in June of 2016. This project will be a 12-month project. And so that's a very high overview of the schedule of how this project will move ahead. And you can imagine under each one of those things, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces that we are working on and engaging all of the professionals that we have here in Butte-Silver Bow in helping us with this project to come to fruition. We have scheduled a weekly call now until construction, probably through construction. It might not be a weekly call all the way through construction, but we have scheduled a weekly call with all of our players on this project starting on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. in our office. We'll include, everyone on our side of the team, including our contractor, our design team, our bond counsel, the financial support through the URA, which is Keith Kimball, Danette Gleason, Eileen Joyce. I could just go on and on, but all the people that need to be involved in this project we're scheduling that call weekly until we start construction and beyond. So I just wanted to let you know how we're trying to communicate this project. I somewhere in my moving through this slide presentation, I believe I lost one of my slides in uploading this. Here's another piece I would love to tell you about really quick. So as I said, we're having design team and contractor meetings, financing meetings. We're also working on development agreements with both sides, with the property owners next to where this garage will be constructed. And that includes the Phoenix building and also the West Park LLP, which is better known as the Public Defenders Building, where the Public Defenders and DPHHS is located. We've had many, many meetings with both sides of the neighbors. We call them the east and west side, obviously, and working through those development agreements and also working with them on alternative parking arrangements for the existing lots that we're going to impact during the construction. So we've come up with some solutions. We've done parking counts. We know where they need to go. We're providing adequate parking within a 2-block area for these folks. And so it kind of works out well that that's one of the other hats that I'm wearing currently is parking. I can work really well with streamlining that process and making sure that everyone is taken care of. I'm not saying it's going to be no bumps in the road, because there obviously will be bumps in the road. People will be disrupted. It will be a major construction project in our uptown district for a year. And all I can say is I'm happy that Northwestern Energy is complete and open for business so that we don't have 2 large construction projects going on at the exact same time within a block of each other. So that's kind of an overview of where we are in the process and all of the pieces that are coming together. I also have some pictures to show you really quickly. And then I have a little video to show you that our contractors put together, our design team. And then I'd love to answer any questions you might have, because I know that I've talked quickly and there may be things that I didn't cover that you'd like to know about as we move this ahead. So just bear with me while I mess with the technology for a sec and we get through this process. Okay, so the design team presented, I hope I'm not standing in anybody's way here. The design team presented our latest version of the garage to the Historic Preservation Commission in early March. The Historic Preservation Commission was thrilled with the design. I have to say, I don't think that's an exaggeration. They loved the design. This is the second time we've presented the design to the Historic Preservation Commission. The first time they did make comments, they did make suggestions. Our design team took it back and made those adjustments. So as you can see, one of the adjustments that was made is there's more brick incorporated into the garage. There is also the purple stripe there is actually purple glass. That is kind of pays homage to the glass tiles that are in some of the vaulted sidewalks that are purple that allow the light to shine through. So the plan is that these would be purple glass with a lighted LED band behind them. So at night it will glow, the purple will glow. And then also the aluminum that's on the stair and elevator tower there, you can see in the corner, that's an all glass tower, so it can be, it's visible all the time if you're in the stairwell or in the elevator. That aluminum used to be, in our previous design, it was a lighter color, it was almost white. They've darkened that up. And so you can see, I think it's a really beautiful looking garage. They've redesigned the sign that says park. The one comment that the Historic Preservation Commission gave was they'd like to see that sign, the park sign, be bigger. A little bit bigger than it is right now. Showing where people would enter. This is the Park Street side of the garage, obviously. And you can see where it ties directly into the Phoenix building. So that is part of our development agreement with the Phoenix building, is how we are going to tie right into their existing parking deck so that they would access their parking deck through our garage. So those are our design team. This is their updates. Everything that they changed. Almost a funny thing that they changed, one of the Historic Preservation Commission members really has a thing for gargoyles. Thinks that gargoyles are pretty awesome. Well, I think they're pretty awesome too. I mean, they're incorporated into a lot of our historic buildings of town. And so they asked if there's a way we could incorporate these gargoyles into the garage. And they did incorporate that, but I will leave that to a surprise here at the end of where they actually are. So if you're not familiar with the site, here is the site of the garage. The bus stop, as you can see, will be taken away. We do have plans to include a bus stop into the front of the garage so that people can still stand there and wait for the bus. It's definitely not going to be as comfortable as it is today. It's not going to be conducive to people spending long amounts of time there. It will be conducive to people waiting for a bus and maybe sitting for a few minutes, but they're not going to want to hang out there for a large amount of time. And so I think everybody's familiar with this, where this is. And so those two lots that are below there are where we're going to be displacing people that are actually have permits to park in areas, so we're accommodating those in other places. This is just the view up from the south to the grassy knoll. That grassy knoll, grassy hillside, will be completely dug out for the garage construction so that we can accommodate parking all the way up to Park Street. So these are the things that change. Okay, so maybe gargoyles, right? So if you look at this picture here, and the bus stop is the lady in the yellow dress, where people would wait for the bus is right behind her. And that will be a covered, sheltered area where people could wait for the bus. Incorporated into the garage also is some public restrooms, both men's and women's. These restrooms, though, will be steel door locked down, and they'll only be opened when we want them to be opened, when we want to be able to monitor them, when we want to be able to take care of them. So that would be during the Christmas stroll, during farmers market, during any of the events that we are holding in Uptown Butte, right? They're not going to be open to the public just on any Saturday or any Friday night. There's a steel roll down door and they lock down, but they are available in case, we need them for an event. The other thing about the garage that we've also incorporated is the use of the top deck for small events. Next to that aluminum overhang there at the top of the elevator, it's a flat part of the deck where you could set up a small stage, you could have a small play, you could have a wine tasting, you could have some sort of event on the roof of the garage and have, your $1 million views to the south and have a very nice event. During those types of events, obviously, we'd want to probably have the bathrooms open so people could descend down the stairs or the elevator and use the restroom and then come back up to their event. So those are the type of things that we are incorporating. This is the Galena Street side of the garage. As you can see, a lot of brick, very beautiful, and also very tall. So the entrance will be very tall on this side of the garage. And a lot of people have asked me, well, where will we park our big trucks? You know, are we gonna feel cramped getting into this garage? This would be the side, if you're driving a large jacked up vehicle, that you would feel comfortable driving it into and parking, because it's going to be very tall ceilings on this side and very airy and open. Just some detail of the cornice, some improvements that they made there. Oops. And the gargoyle. So the gargoyles are actually incorporated into the garage right now, and they're a precast concrete gargoyle. I don't know for sure if it'll be this little bat guy with the pointy ears, but whatever we decide might be appropriate. These gargoyles will be actually the dividers on the benches where you would wait for the bus or where you would sit for a few minutes. These serve two purposes. They've been used in other places, and so what they do is they serve the purpose for making it very uncomfortable to lie down. You don't want to do that. And it also serves the purpose for anyone who might decide they want to ride their skateboard across the edge of the bench or jump their bike up onto it or something like that. They're not going to be able to do that with these gargoyles there. And so I won't bore you too much with the plans as they sit. These are the plan sets. We don't have to go through these page by page. We're at 250 spaces within the garage. That is what we are looking at creating. Our budget is still the same. We are hoping to bring this garage in between 6 and 7 million is where we want it to be. And so I know $1 million is a big fluctuation, but we're getting that nailed down every day. And believe me, we want it closer to 6, but we'll see how that shakes down. We are trying to build a very attractive piece for Uptown Butte that fits in, looks nice, and people feel like it's a place they want to be, and they feel safe to be there. So those are the plan sets for the rest of the garage. And if you have questions, we can get through those and look at those a little bit more. Let me take you really quickly to the video, and that's where I'll end it and open it up for questions So this is a video that was done, and obviously the public defender's building is missing. They didn't put that there. Oh, sorry, Xbox wanted me to do something. Oh, way. Okay. So this just shows people walking, shows what, how the garage would look to scale to, and if we have this much traffic on Park Street, I think we need a few more signals. We might order a few more signals and another parking garage, exactly. And another parking garage would be great. But as you can see, if the car drives into the garage, you can see all the way through down to the Galena Street side. And just the street view, people walking. I don't know what happened to Montana Tech and the Big M to the west, but they obliterated that too, part of this construction. But as you can see where the bus stop is, on that back wall where we're looking is it would be made of copper, copper color at least. It would be, very nice and accommodating. There's our folks waiting for the bus, which would be great. And just lastly, this is the Galena Street side. You can see the existing Galena Street parking deck for the Phoenix building there. And that stair tower on the Galena Street side. It's choppy on the projector, but smooth on the screen I'm looking at, so I apologize for that. This has been posted to both the Butte-Silver website and onto the conference.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Third time I've seen it. It's
Yeah.
still very impressive.
You've seen it, right? So, with that, I think I've covered everything that I had on my notes and in my presentation, but if there's any questions from the commissioners, I'd be very happy to answer those at this time, if I'm able.
Okay, first Commissioner Henderson, then Commissioner Palmer, Commissioner Sorge.
Madam Chair. Karen, could you explain a little bit one more time? I missed it there. We're next to miners there, you go in the gated area, which is private, that belong to the miners. And we had the parking in the back when I had the store there. So what happens to all that parking? Does that stay theirs, or did you encompass some of that?
Yes, Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Henderson. Yes, so the answer is both, actually. So within our design and of this garage, we are looking to acquire the driveway portion of that parking deck that's currently attached to the Miners Bank building or the Phoenix building. So that will be incorporated into our garage. There's actually 2 parcels of land there that will be incorporated into the garage. So that part will become part of the public parking garage. The remaining deck where the tenants of the Phoenix building park will remain private and will remain theirs. They will access it through our parking garage though. So it's a central access for both locations, but theirs will remain private.
Follow.
Commissioner Henderson, follow up.
Madam Chair, Karen, down below, got pretty ugly down there in that alley and everything, and pretty scary.
Right.
As you know, what is the procedure? What's going to happen there? Because they had quite a while back, freight delivery down in there, and then there was garbage service down in there. Will that be vacated now, that dark alley, and actually across from the old restaurant, that drive-in there underneath, will that be part of this new garage then?
Karen?
Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Henderson, Council of Commissioners. Yes, there will be, part of that will be encompassed with our new garage. The video didn't do it exact justice of how that would actually look back there. It didn't incorporate part of that would be acquired by Butte-Silver. What we would do though is the underside of the Galena Street building would be available to the tenants of the Phoenix building, and it will be secured. It'll be it's their building, obviously, and that part of that building would be available for them to do what they would like to do if they want to create additional parking for their tenants in that structure. The alley is now gated and closed on the Dakota Street side. We went ahead and made that improvement this last summer. The URA worked to place a very attractive wrought iron gate across that end of the alley. So that will remain. So the alley will not be open for public access at all after the garage is constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Palmer?
Madam Chair, thank you. Karen, so all parking in this parking garage is free, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I'm giggling a little bit. Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Henderson, and members of the Council of Commissioners, parking in the garage will not be free. It will be paid, and everyone in the public would have access to this garage and be able to purchase a permit to park in the garage if they so chose to do so. It will also be available for hourly parking. And we haven't decided yet, but the Parking Commission would look at the possibility of opening the garage for free public parking, possibly after hours or on the weekend. Those kinds of things are very, very common. So that would be something that we definitely would look at.
So is it follow-up?
Follow-up, Commissioner Palmer.
So Karen, is there going to be an automated ticket booth there, or is there going to be a person actually manning the booth to sell the tickets?
Commissioner Shaw, Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Henderson, Palmer, and Council of Commissioners. It will be an automated garage. There will not be a manned person at the garage at all times. It will be a patrolled garage, though. Our parking enforcement officers will patrol the garage throughout the day to make sure that, people are parking correctly. They're not taking up 6 spaces. They're using the garage how it should be used. It will be an automated system, though. We're still researching the types of automated systems that we might want to use, but we're trying to make it as modern as possible so that we're not falling behind on the technology as soon as we install it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, mine's kind of following suit of what Commissioner Palmer's talking about. I think it's going to be a wonderful project for Uptown Butte, and I'm sure the businesses owners are going to appreciate the parking for their customers and potential customers. But my question to you is, when we have budgeting session coming up real soon, are you foreseeing any additional staffing, to take care of a brand new building? You're going to have 250 new parking spots. So are you seeing any additional staffing?
Karen.
Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Sorich, and members of the council. At this time, we don't foresee any additional staffing right now. Possibly in the next year, the next budget year, we will, after the garage is constructed, or possibly the year after that, after we get a year into knowing how much it's going to take us to maintain and what it might be. As you know, the Parking Commission has 3 parking enforcement officers. We would definitely look with partnerships with obviously our building department and our public works department in maintaining the garage. And to address a question that may come up, the operations of the garage, the operations and maintenance costs of the garage, we are foreseeing will be covered by the fees to use the garage. None of those fees, none of the permit purchases or the hourly pays would go towards the bond service or the debt of the garage. Those would be covered completely by tax increment dollars. So any of the revenue derived off of the garage on its day-to-day operation would go directly into an operation and maintenance fund for the garage. So I can't say for sure that we wouldn't ask for additional manpower in the future. It may be something that we have to look at because it is an extra, very large, really nice building. So we will definitely have to look at that possibility at some point. But I could foresee that could come from the operation and maintenance operation fees of the garage. Just as our very conservative estimates, we are looking that the garage would generate between $50,000 and $80,000 a year in revenue.
Thank you, Karen.
50 on the very low end.
Commissioner Anderson, then Commissioner Henderson, then Commissioner Martin.
Thank you very much, Chairman Shaw. Thank you for your presentation. I did have a question. It's going to be a 3-level garage, it sounded like, with one of the, are you going to be able to access everything from the Galena side as well as the Park Street side?
Karen?
Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Anderson, members of council. The Galena Street side will only be accessed from the Galena Street side. There isn't room, if we would take away a lot of the parking if we were to ramp all the way up from Galena Street. So if you park on Galena Street, your car will stay on Galena Street. But you physically will be able to access Park Street through the elevator or the stairs. So if you park on Galena Street and want to get to Park Street, you can easily do that through the garage. If you pull into the Park Street level, you'll be able to ramp up 2 more levels on Park Street.
Okay, follow-up, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. My main concern with that, I was thinking a lot of the events that we have uptown are on, especially say the farmers market, for example, which would be a wonderful place to have this parking there. It's right in the middle of it, but without being able to get to the parking, it seems kind of like a lost opportunity.
Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Anderson, and members of the council, you physically as a person would be able to access the event very easily from the Galena Street side. So you could park your car on Galena Street and then get into the elevator or stairs and access the event and then come back the same way. So it's still, it's not, I don't believe it's much of a lost opportunity. I see what you're saying, but if we're giving up 10 to 20 parking spaces on the Galena Street side by incorporating a ramp. It's kind of the cost benefit of that.
Commissioner Henderson?
Madam Chair, just kind of a follow-up again, Karen. I kind of got a little confused here because, being in that building for 10 years, I was wondering if the building next to it, the miners, if they turned around and redid apartments and everything like Metals Bank and everything else, I'm curious as to how you are going to have that parking lot take that one section away, purchase that, and then be able to, so that they can accommodate garbage service and stuff like that has always been through there. How are they going to do that, or deliveries, whatever they might build in the miners, when they sell that to Butte-Silver Bowl? Is there some concessions that were given to be able to scoot around that, or what? I mean, we wouldn't want containers out in the streets and everything else.
Absolutely not. Commissioner Shaw and, I'm sorry, Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Henderson, and members of council, we are working very closely with the owners of the Phoenix building on all of the concessions that will need to be made and all of the adjustments that will need to be made to accommodate this parking garage. Those discussions are going very well. We have a very good, almost final draft of the document with them right now for their review. And we have talked about all of these things. And so they have all been addressed. We don't want dumpsters on the street either, or containers on the street either. And I can assure you that is not going to be the case. And so their future development of their projects of that entire building would be something that we would love to see. And so we have made accommodations in our agreement about how their future parking needs can be addressed, both with their Galena Street level of parking, their existing deck, and then possibly if they developed their building, they might be able to add on to their existing deck if it came to fruition that their project took off in that manner. So we have talked about all of the things that I think you're thinking about. And so it's been months and months of discussion. So I think we've covered all of our bases. But if you have something that comes up that you think we should know about, since you have the history of the building, we'd love to hear it.
Well,
Hang on, hold that thought, Dennis. Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Chairman Shaw. Karen, just one question in regards to existing parking on streets. That seems to be kind of a big concern with people is how is that going to change? Is that going to remain the same with free 2-hour parking, or is there changes that are going to come before this body?
Gary?
Yeah, Chairman Shaw and Commissioner Morgan and members of council, I don't foresee any changes right now as to the 2-hour zone that we have, the free 2-hour zone that's on the street. I do know that the Parking Commission is looking at different options for different areas of Uptown Butte right now, just to try to accommodate the kinds of businesses that are in the area and try to encourage folks that are working or living in Uptown to not, I don't want to say it, do the 2-hour shuffle, but I'll say it. We want to discourage that behavior, but I don't see any major changes at all in the near future coming before this body from the Parking Commission's suggestions. So I think that we will definitely be looking at that, because the goal we want to create is a vibrant Uptown and encourage people to be able to come up and park and be comfortable. And if they didn't want to park in the garage, hopefully they can find a spot on the street that is a free spot. But we're looking at all those options.
Commissioner Fisher, and then Commissioner Henderson and Commissioner Peduto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, you stated that you thought the garage would generate $50,000 to $80,000 per year. If it generated $100,000 per year, that's $1 million every 10 years.
That's the
It takes
math.
70 years to pay back $7 million. 70 years.
Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Fisher, the operational costs of the garage that we will be collecting annually in revenue, as I stated, would not be used for any of the bond debt or the service on the garage.
Follow up, Commissioner
Thank you,
Fisher.
That's understandable. I'm just weighing this out a little bit as looking from the outside in. 70 years to pay for a $7 million project.
We're not
I
paying for
realize
it that way.
I realize you're selling bonds to pay for it. What I'm talking about is your return on, what you're receiving out of that garage is $100,000 a year, is what you stated. $50,000 to $80,000. Is that figure correct?
Karen?
Chairman Shaw and Commissioner Fisher, the figure that we would collect off of operations of the garage is an estimate, and it will not go towards the payment of the garage. So I am sorry, I do not understand the line that you're trying to draw. I apologize.
Commissioner Henderson?
Madam Chair, Karen, just, I got to ask this question. Now, the building to the west on Galena was kind of a brewery thing at the last time, I think it was. That is owned by the owners of Miners Bank. You won't be purchasing that, will you? Because that is the top of the drive of theirs, right? The drive-in of theirs.
Karen?
Is that how that works? I'm just trying to find out how.
Chairman Shaw and Commissioner Henderson and members of council. So the Galena Street building that is currently, the roof of that is a current parking deck for the tenants of the Phoenix building.
Right.
There is a small portion of that parking deck, which includes the driveway and part of the bank drive-through that you see on the Galena Street side. It's a 30-foot lot, basically. It's a 30-foot parcel. Those parcels will be incorporated into our garage. It will not impact the brewery space. That is further to the west. It will not impact the other space that is currently used as the restore for Habitat for Humanity. So a lot of the building will remain intact and usable.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue-Dolan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Karen, for this update. Appreciate it. Can you tell us how many permits, or if you've been contacted by Northwestern Energy, how many permits they would likely use as far as the 250 spaces with regard to their daily usage and their employees?
Karen?
Yeah, Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Purdue-Dolan, and members of council. We have many conversations with Northwestern Energy regarding their possible use of the garage. I don't have a number. I haven't gauged that number yet. We did do a survey of all of their employees about their interest in using the garage. And out of the responses, I believe we got almost 170 responses from their current employees, which I thought was very, very good. And what we could gauge from those responses, almost all of them showed interest in using the garage, given the right pricing. So we will continue to work with Northwestern, and they are very committed to encouraging their employees to park in the garage. And we really want them to encourage their employees to park in the garage. But how they do that will definitely be one of their corporate decisions that they make.
Follow-up, Commissioner Purdue-Dolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Using your best guess from all of the research that you've done and all the work that you've done in working with all of the folks that are on your team, could you give a best kind of guesstimate as to how many from the surveys of like 170 and their showed interest, how many spaces do you think would be left for the general public on a daily basis? Just generally, do you think?
Karen?
Commissioner,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chairman Shaw, Commissioner Purdue-Dolan, and members of council. If I were to take my very best guess at this, and this is a guess because I have no way of knowing how many of those folks will actually buy a permit within the garage, I do believe that we'll have between 100 and 150 spaces available daily for public parking in the garage. And I'm saying this a little bit facetiously, but if for some reason we sell out the garage and it's completely sold out the day, and it's completely utilized by permit holders, we've had a success because that will open up more spaces, free parking on the street. I know that will not happen. That is very, very, very unlikely to happen. So in my best guess, I would say 100 to 150 spaces will be open daily for public parking.
Okay. And I might add also, I know that this is a first come, first served basis. We do not earmark spots for any particular business. other businesses such as, Residine or anybody in a Hennessy building or anywhere, it's just on a first come, first served basis.
Correct.
We cannot designate or allocate spots.
Correct.
So like you said, if we fill the whole place, well, that's that many spots out there that are available on the street. So
Correct.
any further questions for Karen? Thank you very much. We look forward to that first shovel in January. Is it June?
June.
Okay, you're going to let us know.
Oh, there'll
We
be
can
a
all be there?
big to-do and you'll hear me yelling from,
And Farmers
Anywhere.
Market will shoot down East Park. Brenda and I were just talking about that, where it might end up going.
correct. I believe that that's where we're looking at. I'm sorry, I didn't address
Okay,
you
that's okay.
formally. I do believe that they are just going to shift the farmer's market further to the east on Park Street during the construction of the garage.
Great. Thank you, Karen. We always appreciate your updates. So
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to, excuse me.
Oh.
Commissioner Anderson.
Just one more really quick question. She just brought it to my mind. The majority of the construction with the equipment and everything, is that going to be taking place on Park Street or on Galena Street?
Chairman Shaw and Commissioner Anderson, members of council, that's a very good question. Most of the construction equipment will be housed in the lot directly to the east of our construction site. It will be the cranes and all of the big equipment. We will be taking over that lot that's currently owned by West Park Limited Partnership. They're letting us use that lot during construction. That's part of our development agreement with them. So that will be our lot that we'll use for the crane and the large equipment and things like that. There will probably be lay down areas somewhere else in Uptown Butte for their storage of materials and things like that. But all of the construction is going to be confined basically to that tight spot. And we don't foresee too many lane, permanent during the construction lane closures on either one of the streets, mostly just the parking lanes adjacent to the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for housekeeping here, normally this communication would show up later on in the committee of the whole report or the committee whole agenda. And it's not. So at this time, I'll ask Commissioner Morgan to place this on file.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'll make a motion that we place communication 16-130 on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 16-130 on file. Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I need to go back to section 1 and do the same thing. JP Gallagher said that there were no bids received. So at this time, we will await his next step or option. So Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion that we place communications 16-157 on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 16-157 on file. Is there anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And just for the record, Cheryl Ralph is absent in case nobody noticed, but I didn't mention that either. So, okay, we are now at the point in our agenda to call for any public comment on any items on tonight's agenda. If anybody care to speak on any item on tonight's agenda, just come to the microphone and identify yourselves. Seeing none? Okay. Move on to section 4. This is communication number 16-27. Craig T. Williams, 803 North Main, Butte, Montana, requesting council's authorization to purchase county-owned property under the adjacent landowner policy. A letter was sent to Mr. Williams. He is considering the requirements that we have for adjacent ownership, so we will continue to hold that in abeyance. Section 5, communication number 16-52, Wei Wen Tan and Wei Young Tan, 1627 Shore Drive, San Jose, California, 95131, requesting Council of Commissioners approve purchase of property at 417 North Main Street, Butte, Montana. We are waiting to hear from the Tans. They have not responded at this time from the letter that was sent by Dory asking for their approval. We'll continue to hold that in abeyance. Section 6, communication 16-70, Patsy Coates, Property Specialist, Butte-Silver Land Records Office, requesting Council of Commissioners to concur with the request of the County Attorney's Office to issue a resolution for mailing, quote, notice that a tax deed may be issued to the county, end quote, to all property owners and interested parties on the delinquent real property taxes for year 2012. We are holding that. The County Attorney's Office is drafting a resolution. We'll continue to hold that in abeyance. Section 7, communication number 16-81, Brian Wilkins, Butte-Silver Public Works Department, requesting council commissioners concur with the request to hold a bid opening on April 6th regarding the Basin Creek Water Treatment Plant ancillary facilities, Southside Pump Station, and PRV building that was inadvertently put on. It was a double duty. We did no harm, no foul, but this has already been placed on file in the Public Works Committee. So we will continue to hold that as placed on file. Section 8, communication number 16-83, Martha R. Serini, 705 Kenwood Ave, Butte, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize purchase of property under the adjacent landowner policy next to her rental at 327 North Wyoming Street, Butte, Montana. We received a letter from Lori Casey, that's the last section in this, we'll get to that, asking that we deny the request. But I wasn't here last week, and I did ask for the indulgence of the council to allow Mrs. Serini to speak on her behalf on the record. And I see Martha is here. So Martha, the microphone is yours. We have
Thank
your name
you.
and address. I think we're good to go.
Thank you. Chairman Shaw, Commissioners, I'm here to ask if they would, am I doing something wrong?
Nope, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you loud and clear.
The land that's adjacent to 327 North Wyoming. And I did buy the house in 2003, and I thought that part that's south of it, the land was with the house, and it turns out it wasn't, but way after I found out that it was tax delinquent, and I have no recollection of ever getting a warning or anything, because I really don't allow anything to go to tax sale. I haven't yet. And so I wouldn't do that. And I was thinking about, I would even take a contingency on it. And if I didn't, live up to my monitoring and everything and doing the right thing by it, they could take sanctions against me. But I wouldn't, go that far with it. But I was thinking that it's very important, I know, for the festival to locate there for 3 days out of the year. And I would, they would go there and use it, and that wouldn't bother me at all. But we wanted that land for the house because it would be too interiorly located, and they need a yard. And another entity said that they would dig up the sod and do a lot of remedial work there, but they have to know who the ownership is of the land. And I'm probably leaving a lot out. I just feel kind of shell-shocked all over, different things, but I probably am not doing, telling you the whole thing, but when I leave, I'll know what I forgot to say.
Hey, Martha. Any questions for Martha from council? Commissioner Henderson?
Madam Chair, I thought that Mrs. Swain wasn't adjacent to this property. According to our charter, as far as being an adjacent landowner. I thought it wasn't right next to it. Am I confused or?
Well, it's physically next to it, but as Lori Casey indicated, Mrs. Serini only owns a house. It's on leased land. In order to be an adjacent landowner, you have to own the land. It's rather a sticky wicket. And there's a couple other, kind of mitigating circumstances that also lend. Apparently back in, I believe, 06, the land did go to tax sale, but then it never had a second sale. And we require two sale opportunities to the general public whenever there's a tax sale property. And, we have the tax sales, and that did not happen. So even under the best circumstances, it would have to go to a second sale, and it would be open to the general public. So
I'm sorry. And I didn't see Lori back there.
yeah, it's rather
Thank you.
complicated. It's much more complicated, as Martha alludes to, you'd think, so.
I guess that went with the house. I mean, it was a separate parcel, I guess, but it was to go with that whole thing, but I didn't know that. And I guess ignorance of the law is no excuse, but that's it. They took it in for taxes, and that was a real shocker.
Commissioner Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The county attorney will probably have to help me with this one.
Okay,
It's my understanding that Mrs. Serini owns the house, but the land was a separate parcel, and that's what went back to the county on back taxes. So I don't think there's any good way out of this, because even if we put the land up for tax sale, we'd only be selling the land and not the house. So it's going to be a mess no matter what. I think the easiest and the best way out of this is to have Serini catch up on all the back taxes that haven't been paid from the day one.
from
Get everything
2003.
consolidated into one parcel. Otherwise, we're never going to get out of this mess, I don't think. So I would recommend that, and I'll listen to whatever anybody else has to
Well,
say.
and just to add to that, I went to the Land Sales Committee meeting today. At this point in time, the land alone that's under Martha's house would have to go at full market value, which is around $13,000. And we'd be compelled to sell it at that price, the land itself under the house. So that just adds another element to this. It's rather frustrating.
We pay the taxes. I mean, Linda, my family member, does all that for me. And what did you say they would be?
The land itself that you don't pay taxes on because it's owned by,
Oh, yes,
in order to sell you the land, like Dave is suggesting, it would be at full market value, which is determined by the DOR, and it'd be 13.
I have purchased land from formerly the Anaconda Company. It was very nothing, hardly.
Commissioner Sorich and then Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, does Laura Casey have any comment? Lori, would you like to comment on anything?
Hey, Lori,
I know who Lori is.
we're gonna make you jump in here.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm just,
That's okay. Commissioner Sorich, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Lori Casey, Assistant Planning Director. When this property, Martha did receive this property, both, she got the house, which it's a little deceiving. We call it a house on leased ground, but there is no lease to the ground. You know, it was just a house that was on land that at one time the mining companies owned. So the house was purchased by someone. They then approached the mining company and purchased the land separately. So therefore, there was two separate assessments of tax bills. So when Mrs. Serini received it, she received both the land and the house, which is called a framed house, no title house with land. She received two separate tax bills. She purchased it in 2003. In 2006, Butte-Silver took a tax deed on the property for lack of tax payment. When we took that, that's when the delinquent taxes stop, because we have taken tax deed. So that was the last time that there was taxes actually assessed to this property, was in 2006, 10 years ago. By state law, when we receive a tax parcel through tax deed, we have to offer it twice on tax sale before we can put it out for any other type, adjacent landowner or that. It was offered once in 2006. The next tax sale, it was pulled. I don't have a record of why it was pulled, but my guess is because somebody else owned the house, and it becomes just like we have now, sort of a mess if you have one property owner that owns the land and another property owner that owns the house. So I think to the extent that you wish to give the land to Mrs. Serini, it couldn't be under the adjacent landowner policy. She doesn't qualify that way. And we would have an obligation to put it back on the tax sale in September of this year.
Thank you, Laura. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Lori, the only option that we have here really is to put it back on a tax sale item. And the problem that I would foresee with that is the house that's owned by Miss Serini, if somebody else buys the land, then would she have to negotiate with the new property owner, or she would have the option of buying the land? Would it be an auction type thing, or how would that work? I mean, if that's our only out, we might have to do that.
Lori?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Morgan, council members, yes, a tax sale is an auction. There is usually a minimum bid set at what the delinquent property taxes and interest are owed. That's the minimum starting bid, and then the bid goes. So yes, Mrs. Serini would, I assume, would want to bid on the property, but there could be competing bidders. And then they would have to negotiate if you had somebody else that owned the land.
Commissioner Anderson, did you have a question?
Thank you very much. I believe that Commissioner Morgan just asked my question. I was just kind of concerned what would happen in the idea of a tax sale.
Commissioner McDonough and then Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, for clarification, the second tax sale, is there another alternative like a developer's packet on vacant land? And does that constitute technically the process of a tax sale? I mean, could this potentially be put up in a developer's packet as a way to consolidate the property?
Lori?
Or just a flat out tax sale?
They couldn't consolidate it with the house, could they? And what is adjacent, isn't that right next to?
Well, we're talking about just the house and your land right at the moment, which is really not an issue in this communication, to be honest. I mean, we're at this moment, we're just trying to decide what to do with your original communication, which was as an adjacent or a proposed adjacent landowner. So really, this other, we added this in just to show how complicated this is, but we really are in a position to just make a determination, a motion on this issue, which is your request to buy adjacent land. And I think in this case, it's pretty clear cut. I don't know. I'll leave it to the pleasure of the council. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much. Another question that popped in. Lori Casey, is there any reason that you know of right offhand that we could not put the said property that the house sits on up for sale at the tax sale? Is there any reason or compelling interest that the county has that would prevent that from going towards a second tax sale, being as it was pulled in 06?
Lori?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Anderson, no, besides the complication that it has a house that is owned and it has current taxes and is owned by Mrs. Serini. And I believe that's the reason why Butte-Silver Bow held it as an interest, is that we have this where the house is owned by someone else. But I believe because by law we're obligated to offer it on 2 tax sales before we do a developer's packet or any other type of process, I believe that's one of our only choices.
Commissioner Fisher? I'm sorry. Follow up, Commissioner Anderson. And then Commissioner Fisher, and then you.
Would it be possible for the owner of the house, Mrs. Serini here, to petition the council or the county to put it up for sale? It would be risking the possibility of someone else buying the property. But at this point in time, it seems like it would be the only reasonable option that she would have going forward, if we weren't able to sell it outright to her before a second sale or anything. Otherwise, the county would continue to own it and she would be a leasee of the county with the house. But it would seem to be in our best interest as well as hers to put it on the tax auction if that was what she wanted to do, to be able to put the 2 pieces of property together.
So before I have Lori answer that, I am going to defer to our county attorney. What are the legalities of what we're talking about? Because in order to get to what Martha is asking for, which is an adjacent landowner, we need to establish her as a landowner. So, I mean, that's why we have an issue here. County Attorney Joyce.
Madam Chair. So if your question is in terms of whether or not her current communication that requests that she purchases an adjacent landowner is allowable, You're correct. She doesn't meet the definition of an adjacent landowner. She owns personal property, but not real property. Also, apparently the lot that she's requesting to build or to buy is greater than 3,000 square feet, which is what our adjacent landowner policy limits adjacent landowner purchases to. So, under that particular policy that's been adopted by this council, the purchase does not qualify.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Miss Serini, I guess here's what I think. So, which doesn't mean a lot. Your communication asks us to authorize you to purchase it under the adjacent property owner policy that Butte-Silver Bow has. From our county attorney, it says we cannot allow that to happen. So what my suggestion would be to deny this communication that you put before us, but to have a meeting with you and the planning staff just so we can all figure out what your options exactly are. Because as we can tell tonight, we can't fix this fiasco at this level right now. But I know, working with our planning staff, our county attorney, we just got to come up with what options we have and move forward. So that's what I would like to present. So with that, if you're okay with that, I mean, I would make a motion that we deny communication number 16-83 and place this one on file and ask Lori Casey to work with Miss Serini just to figure out what our options are, and then we'll proceed when we can.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny communication 16-83 as it's written and place this on file. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going along the same lines as Commissioner Morgan, and I think, rather than coming back to us, I think that Ms. Serini has to meet with some of the Lori, and I don't think we have a land.
Lori's in land sales.
Interim.
Zip.
So meet with Lori, and, I do agree we got to deny this, and then contingent upon meeting and getting the piece of property she has the house on, let's get that fixed before we move forward with the next one. And I think you find cooperation from the council and the employees of the county to assist you in what you want to do. But the way the law reads right now, it just can't happen. So I concur with Commissioner Morgan, and thank you.
Okay. Anything further on the question?
Oh, Lori has
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, could I just clarify
Yes,
one thing?
please do. Thank you, Lori.
Is if, to the extent that this goes to a tax sale, there would not be any adjacent land. Mrs. Serini would receive what's a legal description of the south 60 feet of lots 1 and 2. That would give her the land under her house and also the little bit of front yard and the side yard to the alley. So she wouldn't need to come back as an adjacent landowner. She would receive basically all of what is being utilized by the tenant that's there now. So just for that clarification.
Okay. Commissioner Sorge, did you have a question?
I guess I do, and this is probably just from my curiosity. Mrs. Serini, this has been going on since 2006. Why are you coming forward now? What brought you forward?
I was just apprised of it. I didn't think about it. I thought it was mine already and went along with it because we paid the taxes all the time and they're current. And I thought, I guess I shouldn't have assumed anything.
Thank you.
Okay. So anything further on the question? Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Martha, we'll continue to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Okay. Section 9, communication number 16-111. Donita Romine, Western Montana Mental Health Center, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize street closures for Stomping Out the Stigma Walk on May 27th, 2016. We are waiting on signatures. We'll continue to hold that in abeyance. Section 10, communication number 16-113. Jeffrey L. Miller, Director of Butte-Silver Fire Services, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize the county attorney to prepare a resolution to establish the Wise River Volunteer Fire Department, Fire District 5. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion that we cross-reference communication number 16-113 with resolution number 16-17 and place this communication on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to cross-reference communication 16-113 with resolution 16-17 that was passed last week and place this on file. Is there anything further on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Section 11, communication number 16-126, Dan Rogenkamp, 630 South Washington Street, Butte, Montana, requesting council commissioners authorize purchase of county-owned property under the adjacent landowner policy. Property of interest lies east of 630 Southwest Washington Street and includes 3 lots above storm detention tract and 1 lot below. This was brought to today at the Land Sales Committee, and they're preparing a letter of recommendation back to council, so we will continue to hold that in abeyance. Section 12, communication number 16-141, Captain Doug Conway, Butte-Silver Law Enforcement Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize online submission for the Justice Assistance Grant, JAG program, and schedule a public hearing for May 4th, 2016. We will hold this in abeyance until that date. Section 13, communication number 16-114, Nick Sanford, Road Operations Manager, Butte-Silver Public Works Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize time on April 20th, 2016 agenda to conduct a bid opening regarding the Butte-Silver invitation for bid for asphalt. We will hold that in abeyance until that date. Section 14, communication number 16-145. This is JP Gallagher, Director of Butte-Silver Parks and Recs Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize a public hearing on April 20th, 2016 to amend the FY 2016 budget in Parks and Recreation Golf Course Fund. We will hold that in abeyance until that date. Section 15, communication number 16-146. Lori Casey, Assistant Planning Director, Butte-Silver Planning Department, requesting Council of Commissioners approve zoning application number 174 and request the county attorney prepare an ordinance adopting the proposed change to the Butte-Silver zoning district map. And we will, that is being sent to the county attorney's office to draft that ordinance. Section 16, communication number 16-148, Matt Moore, Metro Operations Manager, Butte-Silver Public Works Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize a public hearing on April 20th, 2016 to receive public comment regarding a sanitary sewer TSEP environmental review and preliminary engineering report. We'll hold that in abeyance until that date. Section 17, communication number 16-149, Matt Moore, Metro Operations Manager, Butte-Silver Public Works Department, requesting Council of Commissioners approve request for county attorney to prepare a resolution regarding TSEP sanitary sewer application, and that is also in the county attorney's office, preparing a draft resolution. Section 18, communication number 16-151, Sheriff Ed Lester, Butte-Silver Law Enforcement Department, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize the Chief Exec to sign a contract with CCCS to transport youths to detention center. This was sent to the Committee of the Whole with questions, and I believe Commissioner Foley, I'll call on you.
Thank you. I'd recommend we continue to hold this. We have a meeting scheduled for this Friday morning.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll hold that in advance. Section 19, communication number 16-152, Lori Casey, Assistant Planning Director, Butte-Silver Planning Department, requesting Council of Commissioners deny communication number 16-83, request from Martha Serini to purchase city-county property. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'll make a motion that we concur with the communication 16-152 and place this communication on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to concur with communication 16-152 and place this on file. Is there anything further on the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time in the agenda, I will call for any public comment on any public matter not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Revis?
Mark Revis, 842 West Galena. Could you update the vacant building ordinance? The link wasn't updated, so I didn't have a red line version to follow. So it's the old one that you guys received a red line version.
You needed a copy of it, Matt? Mark?
Yeah, I don't have a red line version there. If you could update it so everybody has that on the hyperlink,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Thank you, Mark. I believe we can probably put that on the Butte-Silver website. Anything further? Any further comment from the audience tonight? Seeing none, anything to come before us this evening? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. I put on all your desks, but has to be handed out, a little flyer on walk and roll schedule events. They'll be discussing bike lanes and a lot of other fun, exciting things to do, i.e. cleanup and some pub crawls. So if you want to hit one of the breweries or other things, this will be a fun event. Be some good exercise, good opportunity to get on your bicycle and have a fine pursuit. So
Are we gonna have biplanes like the Columbia Gardens biplanes? Okay, anything further to come before us this evening? Commissioner Morgan.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion and